Hi, I'm Stephanie Chizik, an editor-in-chief with AMP Media. We're here at the 2024 AMP Conference and Expo in New Orleans. And I've got with me today Andy Odorzynski. He's the sales manager with Induron. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
So today we're going to talk a little bit about the new ceramic epoxies that are coming to Induron in 2024. I think we should maybe start with just an overview of what ceramic epoxies are.
Yeah, ceramic epoxy is really a description of some of the unique pigments that we add to our epoxies. So we're making traditional, different types of epoxies, Novalax, polyamines, et cetera, like many other coatings manufacturers do. What we do a little differently is then add a pigment package of hollow ceramic spheres of varying sizes. So with each of our coatings, we've worked hard over the years to engineer the right blend of different size spheres into each of these films to help with two things. First of all, we want to improve the wet film properties for the applicators and make this easier to do right by making it easier to do it all. And then secondly, the dry film properties of how it'll actually age as a coating and perform. So the first part of that, where we're affecting the ability of the applicators to put this material on, the reason these hollow ceramic spheres are able to help with that is because they change so much about the properties of that coating. Most thick film epoxies are filled with something like silica to make them thicker and give them the ability to stand at 20 or more mils on a vertical surface. The problem with that silica is it is very heavy and it's angular and rough. So it takes a lot more pressure to push it around through a pump, get it to atomize out of a tip. And it's also heavy, so that makes it want to sag and run a little easier. When we replace those heavy angular fillers with something like ceramic spheres that are hollow, lighter, and because they're spherical in shape, actually help the flow of that coating, what we find is we can move it with a lot less pressure. We don't need really high temperatures. These epoxies are atomizing at around 90 degrees, whereas competitor products might be as high as 120, 130, 140. And we see those applicators spraying with a welding glove on because it gets so hot. So reducing that temperature a lot really matters. Allows the material to flow better so pumps don't get torn up nearly as much. And we're also able to get a lot more film build than most people can out of these resin technologies. So where you might see one person's polyamine epoxy top out at 20 mils, we might be able to pull that up to 50 or 60 mils with these ceramic spheres. So we're both making it easier on those guys with application, but then there's the other part of how will this impact the coating long term. And with ceramic spheres, it's all about lowering the permeability of that coating. Epoxy is a barrier coating by nature, but all liquid applied coatings are going to have some amount of moisture vapor transmission. The hollow ceramic spheres are actually not permeable to that moisture vapor. So any vapor that's going to come through that coating has to make its way around them in a very circuitous path. And that's how we're able to get permeability performance of a lining that might be 40 or 60 mils out of one that's 20 or 30 by adding these ceramic spheres. So make it easier to put on and make it last longer by changing those ceramic pigments. And that's how we get the ceramic epoxy.
So it sounds like beneficial for both the end user and the asset owner then at the end of the day.
Yep, that's the game. Again, coatings are more difficult to put on every year I've been in this business. And we believe really strongly that as difficult as this job has gotten for the applicators to stand a chance at getting it done right, what we can do innovating into the market is make this stuff easier for them to put on. We know the performance bar won't go down. We need to be just as good in the field with long-term performance, but we've got to make this easier on the guys in the field to get done right.
Yeah. Okay, that sounds great. What are the new products that are coming out to market in 2024?
Yeah, we've got a few we're really excited about. Actually, I think over the next probably 18 months, you'll see more new Induron products than in the last decade.
Wow.
We've made some big investments in our R&D team and have projects that we've been working on for years that are finally coming through those long-term due diligence tests and stuff, and we're able to bring them to the market. One of those we're really excited about is actually a modification to an existing very successful Induron product, our PermaClean 100 ceramic epoxy that we use in water tanks all throughout the country. Has always been successfully plural applied for spray application. We've developed a version of this that has a 2.5 hour pot life at 75 degrees. So we're actually able to apply it through a single leg pump and we don't need to bring plural application into the job. And that really has a big impact on some of these particularly water infrastructure projects because we find the applicator base that can successfully apply plural component epoxy is very regional. Some parts of the country we see dominated by these products. They're putting on these thicker barriers. We expect them to last a lot longer. and they have the applicator base to do that successfully. But there are massive parts of America where if you bid the project with those coatings, you won't get bidders that can successfully apply it. So getting something that will deliver this thick film performance out of 100% solid coatings that have traditionally been plural component applied into a single leg product that has hours of pot life like that will allow us to spread that high performance around to a lot of places that really haven't had access to it to this point.
Yeah.
So that's an exciting one, and that's all on the clean water side. So we'll use that for clean water treatment, water tanks, things like that. And then as we move into the wastewater side of the water industry, we want to have just as strong of an offering there. So we've developed our NovaSafe Novalac epoxy, which is another ceramic sphere package epoxy. So it's got those spheres in it I was just speaking about, making things easier for the applicators, improving long-term performance all the way through. But it's also designed to handle the really high acidic environments that we find in these treatment plants. Very, very often talking with treatment plant operators, they tell us that they might have been in that plant 20 years and they've never needed to coat any of the concrete. Steel was the only thing they ever worried about. And these plants tend to be largely concrete structures. And over time, what they find is the influent is getting hotter. We have more and more people in these urban areas, even in rural plants. Some of the chemicals that get added to agricultural operations end up in that water. And slowly but surely, we're raising the pH of all of these environments, or lowering rather. And when we get that acidic pH of the influent next to the basic concrete, you end up starting to dissolve that concrete. So it's become more and more common for us to enter treatment plants and see exposed aggregate, exposed rebar on structures that weren't dissolving like that a few years ago. But as that influent changes and becomes more acidic, there's a real need for coatings on these plants to keep them operational as population continues to grow and we build other new assets. So NovaSafe is an exciting option for us. We have sold a lot of Novalac epoxy over our lifetime. It's not new to us. That's what our Protecto 401 ductile iron sewer pipeliner is based on. And this coating, that Protecto 401 is designed for shop application. The people who make the pipe put it on in their shops. We really needed a different animal for field application that could be applied throughout a treatment plant. And that's where NovaSafe comes from. So some really interesting technology that we're excited to add the ceramic spheres to and spread around the whole water business.
Sounds like an exciting year coming.
Yeah, we're very excited.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. Again, I'm Stephanie Chizik, Editor-in-Chief with AMP Media. This has been Andy Odorzynski with Induron, and happy coding.